All right, let's have a look at number one first then. So this is for how long is a statutory off-road notification required? SORN for short, they call it. You know what this is, okay? A SORN, it's a,
Uh, I don't. I forgot what it was.
yeah.
Uh,
It's basically if say you have a car, right, and you've had an engine failure or something, right, and the engine's not, it's not going to be repaired anytime soon. Well, they allow you to keep the car basically under these conditions because it's not going to be driven on the road, you see, because it's actually broken down. So you can actually avoid paying your road license fee in particular because it's not getting used, you see. But that's only in play for the length of time that you actually aren't, using it. And when you decide to use it, you've got to go onto the website again to basically cancel this SORN.
mm,
Because if you drive the vehicle on the road, for example, when this is in place, then that's actually a break of the law itself and would get you fined and all that, lovely stuff.
mhm.
So this other rule is that if you actually tax the vehicle, then that means that you're more or less ready to take it back on the road again. So
Yeah.
that's the tax is basically the road license fee, they call that. So you're paying to basically to say, yes, that's me, I'm going back on the road. So once you've paid that, it basically tells everyone what you need to know. And the reason why you got a SORN certificate in the first place is because you were going to have the car off the road and therefore you weren't going to pay the road tax
Mm.
for that reason, And obviously it says if the car was scrapped, it also means that you obviously it doesn't really matter anymore about the car because it's actually going to the scrapyard finished.
Yeah.
So that's that. So that's the reason why until the vehicle is taxed or sold to someone else, and then it's their responsibility then once you sell the car to them or it's scrapped. So there's three reasons why your SORN would be then, taken out of the equation, if you like. All right,
Yeah.
happy enough?
Yeah.
All right, so 15 then. Well done on that run there, 13 in a row without getting one wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, this is just really kids, on a orange plate, yellow plate, and you'll find that on the back of a school bus actually. So when you're coming up, you're right, like it's near a school crossing, of course, and so that's what I said to you earlier. When you're doing these tests, you got to be careful. There's always going to be one that's close to being right and one that's really right, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you've just been caught with this a little bit. So you see that on when you come up to a school bus and it's sitting parked, you'll see that on the back of it.
Yeah.
And of course, that's just telling you that you've got to now be particularly careful if you're going to pass the bus or overtake it, that there's no kids running back and forward, You know what they're
Mhm.
like.
Yeah.
So that's the reason behind it. Is that okay?
Mhm.
So yeah, you don't see it that often now, so it's caught you out on the signs. This is one that you should know. It's actually a warning triangle, first of all. So it's telling you what's coming up ahead. And it's telling you that there's a roundabout up ahead. Now, you were thinking it was a mini roundabout then.
Yeah.
And what's the difference between the big roundabouts, if you like, or the major roundabouts and the mini roundabouts? What's the difference in them?
There is it's a bit small.
Yeah, but there's also a color goes with them.
What color? No.
Associated with a mini roundabout, there's a color associated. You have any idea what the color is?
Graydon?
Well, it's actually you've seen them in Larne probably actually when you drive around the place. Um, I'll get a wee diagram for one up for you. And you have a look at it.
Mhm.
Um, so let me just share this with you. Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I can see it live.
Yeah. You see the difference?
Hmm.
Yeah. So you got a blue circle, you see, with the white arrows. And if you look at the other one in a second again, you'll see that there's There's no blue really anywhere near that sign. That's maybe the quickest way to remember. And of
Mm.
course, with a mini roundabout, you're allowed to touch that white dot a little bit if you need to. Not go right over it, of course, but you can touch it a little bit, okay?
Mm.
All right, let's go back to the question. And so you remember it now. You see there's no blue there. That's how you remember the mini roundabouts. The blue circle with the white arrow.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Hmm.
Yeah, but that's how you tell the difference, between the major roundabout and the minor roundabout. And that's it. Just wee memory triggers like that help to, you know, get you over the line whenever you get stuck up on a question. You remember blue on the mini roundabout will help you. Okay, so 20 then. What type of emergency vehicle is fitted with a green flashing beacon? Now, the ones that do the servicing on the roads or put the grit down or anything that's creating a temporary obstruction will always have flashing amber attached to it.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah. I've never seen a doctor's car.
You're right. They're not that popular, and they're used for usually first response, or maybe for doing visitor visiting patients, outside of the hospital. So
Yeah.
I always remember, another memory trigger. If you want to think about what color you turn when you're sick,
Hmm.
turn green, before you're
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll help you, you know,
Yeah.
green before you turn sick. It might work.
Yeah.
Okay, so 21 then. So when may you sound your vehicle's horn? Well, the thing about it is there's a law against using your horn, when you don't need to use it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
No. No.
Well, I mean, it's really it gives you an highway code that so in the UK, a car horn should only be used to alert other road users of potential danger or to warn them of your vehicle's presence. In other words, where you are, when your vehicle is not moving. For example, you can use it when it's not moving for that reason. It's not for general frustration or annoyance. You
Yeah.
hear people using their horn for that a lot if they get fed up with someone or so it's to attract someone's attention to let them know where you are, even if your vehicle, even when your vehicle is sitting stationary, you can do it, But normally it's used when you're on the move.
Hmm.
But it's not generally used for when you're sitting still. But so you're always going to be on the move, and it's allowing to signal a person, that you're there on some occasions that can work like that. That's why I said you could use it when you're stationary. Sometimes somebody's going to put a reverse into you, for example. You're sitting still and they're not paying attention, looking out the back window. You could top your horn. But when you're on the move,
Hmm.
it can attract someone's attention. And if you're using it, suppose you list them in just to be on the safe side. Alerting to danger. So use the horn to warn other road users of potential hazards, such as another vehicle merging or that's coming towards you without noticing you. It signals presence. Use the horn to indicate where you are, especially in areas where there's limited visibility or, when there's a blind corner, for example. You could use that. Warning of potential danger. Use the horn when approaching a blind spot or a corner where visibility is limited. So a lot of visibility, and when you can't see that far in front of you, could be a good idea. So I
Yeah.
suppose when not to use your horn. So while stationary, in other words, you don't use it just for the sake of it, unless another vehicle poses danger, for example. And there is a time that comes up here. And if you can try to take note of this for me, um, you're not allowed to use your horn in built-up areas between the times of 11:30 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Hmm.
So it's actually illegal to use the horn in built-up areas during these hours, except when a hazard really exists, like we talked about. So how do you remember that? Well, I remember it by, the all-night diners, 11/7s, 11/7. I don't know why
Yeah.
it works for me. 11/7. So 11:30 to 7 a.m. But when you get asked this question, how we go, they ask you what times you're not allowed to use your horn. 11/7 seems to work for me to remind me it's 11:30 to 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And you should never, and also you should never use your horn aggressively. That should not be used to express frustration or annoyance.
Hmm.
And that's about the head of it, I suppose. There's a fine for it actually, but if you use the horn illegally, it's up to can it be up to £1,000? Would you believe?
Oh.
Well, yeah, you know. So 11:07 is the time. 11:37 a.m. is the time you're not allowed to use it during the evening, um, in built-up areas in particular. You shouldn't use your horn when you're stationary, just to recap. But if it's to let someone know of your presence because they're about to reverse into you, for example, yeah, yes, use it then.
Mhm.
So, so basically, to warn others of your presence is the question, the correct answer here on this one. And you said to give you right of way. Nope. Can't be saying, yeah, I want out of here, so I'll beat my horn at you. That's not what you meant, I know, but you know, that question is to warn others of your presence is the most general good answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, there we go. We'll get that one right. The next one. Has that question come up before? Have you seen that before?
I've seen it once.
Ah, it's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Have you ever come across the question when it's asked you about the times you're not allowed to use the horn?
Uh, no.
No, it doesn't come up very often, but it does come up, you know. But
Mhm.
yeah, 11:07 is a good way. And then remember the horn's only to warn others people of your presence where you are.
Yeah.
In other words, what can you achieve if you drive smoothly? Well, we always talk about um, saving the fuel, but that's what it's all about. So it's all about saving energy, I suppose, and fuel's energy, isn't it? And
Mhm.
you've went reduction in journey times by, see, that's, you know, it's not a bad answer, you know, but reduction in journey times would maybe mean that you were actually driving fast, would it not?
Going for gut. I always like change my mind at the last minute.
And this one, look, can I give you some clues here for you to help you get this one right? Well, obviously you got the 15% right, which is brilliant. So that's the, it's not giving you an option of any other one here, but in some occasions it has given you options of different percentages. But 15, yeah, you've got that. But look for the word consumption as well.
Yeah.
Look for when it's to drive smoothly, to reduce costs, to save the environment. Look for the word consumption. It always comes up. Consumption is like when you, for in a human form, I suppose, is for eating food, you know, eating a lot of food, consumption, what you eat. But
Yeah.
consumption in a vehicle is energy, the same thing, right? So, and the word reduction, you see, they've used the word reduction here.
Yeah.
Reduction in fuel consumption by about 15%.
You see, by using the word reduction, it's reducing. So
Yeah.
reducing the amount of fuel you consume, or in human form, if you like, reducing the amount of food that you take on by as much as 15% will actually be good for the environment, you see. So
Mhm.
by driving smoothly, in other words, using the accelerator and properly and looking well ahead of yourself so that you don't have to go on and off the accelerator and the brake because you're looking well ahead of yourself, you can actually reduce your fuel usage, if you like, by as much as 15%, and that's, I'd imagine, per year, which is
Yeah.
actually quite a good saving in today's world. It's a lot of money actually being saved there. Probably
Mhm.
enough to pay for your road license fee, for the vehicle on the road if you can drive at that with that ability to look ahead and use the accelerator wisely, and therefore reducing the amount of braking you need to do by looking well ahead. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Okay. 31 then. What does it mean when a moving vehicle is showing a flashing amber beacon? Well, this has come up now for the second time on this paper. The flashing amber beacon is normally something that's causing like a small temporary reduction or restriction in your movement because of them. They're they're being a bit of an obstruction for you, and they're maybe in a position where they might be dangerous. So they got a flashing amber beacon to alert people's attention to where they are. And that's like, the mobility scooters, when they're on dual carriages, they're meant to have one on them to help reduce the risk of someone not seeing them. The
Yeah.
gritting lorries, anything that's going to be doing some work on the roads, the wee road sweepers.
Yeah.
And, it's giving you a flash number light to let you know they're moving very slowly. And, gives you a helping hand to know that they're not stopped, but they're still moving a little bit. because you know they might appear to be stationary when you approach them, but when they've got the flashing amber going, they're moving slightly sometimes. So that's giving you the heads up that they're actually still moving a little bit if you're going to pass them, because obviously that
Yeah.
has to be built into your calculation of how fast you pass them and all that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So just try to remember when you see flashing amber beacons, it's always going to be an obstruction, so vehicle or moving slowly or something like that. Now, when you say the vehicle is broken down, by the way, that's not a bad answer, because when you do break down, you are causing a temporary obstruction, and so you would use your four ways. We call them, don't we, the four-way flashing amber lights. But this beacon is the word beacon is not the same as the indicator on the car flashing. And that in respect to that. So when you say flashing beacon, you see, you have to think about something else. So give a small picture of it actually for you. See if I can give you a better idea of what a. I mean, it does. I get exactly what why you went for that, of course, because I mean, it's. Let's be honest about it. You got the answer you give is actually correct in some ways, but the fact that they've used a moving vehicle's a flashing amber beacon instead of a flashing amber indicator or hazard warning lights is what we normally the way we describe the flashing amber lights on the car. We call them hazard warning lights, don't we?
Yeah.
So that's how we would have, if they were asking you about that, that's how they would have described that. They wouldn't have described it as a beacon. Can you see that picture now of a beacon?
Yeah.
So that's what they were referring to, and that's what you would find on the top of the vehicle usually, you know, on the roof of it, or you know, a flashing amber beacon. It's not the same as the hazard warning lights in the car. But your answer, like I say, is not far away from being correct. Just so you know, that's a tough one actually, and I could see why people would get that one wrong. So now you know what a beacon is. Can you see back to the ordinary screen again?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, what lights should you use when you're driving on a wet motorway and vehicles are throwing up surface spray? Now, let's just analyze this one a little bit. What lights should you use when you're driving on a wet motorway? So it's telling you you're driving on a motorway for starters, and it's wet, so there's going to be some spray coming up, you know, water coming up off the road into people's windscreens. And this is happening to you, and vehicles are throwing up surface spray, and it's actually therefore it's going to be in the air, and it's going to make visibility poor. So you would never put your hazard warning lights on in this situation. Okay. The dipped headlights, you see, is what the correct answer is. Just like your ordinary headlights that you would normally have on the car for driving in roads, you know, at night time, for example, just that have street lights. You would use your dipped headlights. And it's not saying it's dark or anything here, so this is just putting this on even in daytime because it's actually limited visibility, and you know, and that's why you're wanting other drivers to see you more clearly. The hazard warning lights is that if you're creating a temporary obstruction. Now, that's it. There is one occasion when I would say that you can use the hazard warning lights on a motorway, in the event of, first of all, you creating a temporary obstruction. That means if you've broken down. But if you're driving on a motorway and you look well ahead of yourself and you see an accident, then the driver's coming up behind you are traveling at such a fast speed that you can put your hazard warning lights on and be allowed to do that legally, which alerts the drivers be coming up behind you fast that there's a problem, and then they will start to slow down, you see. So you couldn't use your horn in them situations because the horn's not going to be heard or it's not going to be useful.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So yeah, just to reiterate then, so when you're driving on the motorway and poor visibility, even in daytime, you can't put your headlights on in the car, especially if your visibility's been reduced because of heavy rain.
Mhm.
All right?
Yep.
But the hazard warning lights are used specifically for when you're broken down and you're not moving and you're creating a temporary obstruction. All right, they're not used for when you're towing a vehicle or anything. I've heard that, I've seen that before. That's not they're useful for them either. And like I say, that additional time you could use your hazard warning lights is actually if you're driving along a motorway and you see an accident up ahead. And you could warn drivers coming behind you by putting your hazard warning lights on for a period of time. All right. Oh, this is the blue must do or information sign, but we've got the bus and coming towards you, and it's a one-way system that you're in. And you know, sometimes there's two signs like this, isn't there? There's another one that's called a with flow. With a with flow bus lane or a with flow lane. Have you heard that before?
No.
Well, do you know what it means when it says contraflow? What that actually means?
Yeah.
It means it's coming against you. You see, coming against you. I'm going to flip over and show you what the bus is coming against the normal flow of traffic. You see that if you could imagine yourself driving on a one-way system and around a city or something, and all of a sudden you see a bus charging towards you when traffic's only going one way, you would actually take a heart attack.
Yeah.
So they put this sign up to let you know that you might expect that because it's what's known as a contraflow, and the word contra means against. So against the flow of normal traffic, and the two arrows that indicate a one-way system, and the white arrow, the white line is the lane, if you like, for buses to use, and they're coming straight towards you. And that means you're on a one-way system, and buses are allowed to come up that road to pick up their passengers. And you'll see this happens quite a lot in around cities.
Yeah.
Because a bus has to, you know, negotiate all the way around the city to pick up different people. And of course, you know, it's got no option but they've got no option but to allow the bus to go against the flow of the traffic on some occasions, and that's why they make a specific lane just for the buses.
Yeah.
And the two arrows, like I say, represent where you're probably heading. You're in the one-way system. You're a car driver, and then you just can expect the buses to come the other way, and that's against the flow of the traffic. Now sometimes they have a bus and a cycle lane that is actually part of this one-way system. In other words, there's a lane specifically for buses and cycles that you're probably not allowed to drive in most of the time. And there'll be a sign up that says, "Oh, by the way, don't drive here between say 7 o'clock and 9, which are the busiest times of the day, usually for people going to school and work." So you could have a sign that says you're not allowed in the lane, but let me show you what that one looks like. First of all, the one that's with flow, if you like. Okay. You could see that one okay?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a bit like the other one, wasn't it? Except this one hasn't got any arrows in it. And so sometimes there's a memory trigger, actually, is you can think about it like this. If you see a sign that hasn't got arrows in it, it's with flow.
Yeah.
If you see one that has got arrows in it, it's contraflow. So with flow, contraflow, because it's got the arrows in it.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Does that work out all right for you?
Yeah.
So try to remember then. The one with the arrows is what one? What type of one is the one with the arrows? Contraflow. Yeah, that means you could expect buses coming towards you. And the one without the arrows is what?
The flow.
Yep. So there you go. You got with flow is the one without the arrows. Contraflow with arrows.
Yeah.
Contra with arrows. With flow, no arrows. That's a good wee way to remember that.
Yeah.
It's another little memory trigger for you. I need them these days myself, to be honest with you. You find that, you know, but if you can attach some kind of rhythm to it or some kind of picture in your mind or visualize, you know, something or even something that sounds a bit silly, as I have a tendency to do sometimes when I'm doing these highway code tests. I don't know if it works for you, basically, you know, if a memory trigger works, use it, you know, whatever you need to remember, even like with the mini roundabouts, the difference in the color is enough to trigger your mind to remember what a mini roundabout is and what a major one is.
Yeah.
Because you know that what color is the mini roundabout then? Can you remember?
Blue.
There you go. You see?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you've got a memory trigger, you see, and hopefully with this contraflow, which sounds silly to most people who don't know what it is, because it sounds silly. It's like a Latin word, against. They like to be clever sometimes, don't they?
Yeah.
Using Latin words just to confuse us all. So there you go. There's a with flow. See?
Mhm.
No arrows. And can you see the back to the theory test screen again?
Yeah.
You see the questions?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so there we go. So that the bus flow, bus with flow and contraflow. And question 44 then. What's this one then? What can you see in the picture first of all?
Oh, I was gonna go to that as well.
What's that?
I was gonna go to no
No,
no
it's
motor.
okay. It's all right. It's easy to confuse, but I just wonder what's the first thing you see when you look at that picture?
Is it a warning warning sign?
Well, it's not a warning sign really, because warning signs are triangular, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
So what's a circular sign?
Order?
Yes, it's an order. O means order, or O sometimes means no.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to remember it. O means no. You see, order or O means no. And if you look in that side inside it, then you can see what does it say? No. No what? No motorbikes, no cars, so no motor vehicles. And you got to remember that because you went for it's only them allowed, and that's just a simple thing there with the confusion of the actual sign itself. The
Yeah.
triangular is a warning sign. An O is a no. No. Whatever's inside it, no. You see? So
Yeah.
that's that one there you could have got right, I think. Definitely. Okay, let's have a look at this next one. When must your vehicle have valid insurance cover? Valid just means it's it's actually up to date. It's been paid for. It's in use, and everything that you need to have in place is there as well. Because sometimes a car, you could have insurance for your car, but when you find that it goes to do this, the tax runs out. You've got problems there because you haven't got no road license fee, even though you've got insurance. Or the MOT runs out. The car's tested, it does every year to make sure it's roadworthy. So that could put a question mark on whether your insurance is valid. But what they're always trying to find out, and you don't have to sell a car with insurance, just so you know. You don't have to sell a car with MOT, or you don't have to sell a car with anything. Actually, you can sell a car just if it's yours, you can sell it. So you don't need anything in place to sell the car. That might help you sell it. Now, don't get me wrong. If you've got MOT and all the rest of it, it's easier to sell, right? But it's not a legal requirement. You can have a car sitting at your front door and you never drive it, and you just decide, oh, I'm going to sell that because it's blocking the driveway.
Yeah.
You've never used it for years, Of course, you'd have a Soren certificate on it then as well. But you can't get road tax without having insurance. They won't allow you to do it. The computer says no, actually. You see, when you go to log on to the internet and you say, well, I want to renew my insurance or I want to, put tax on the car, either or, they won't let you do it because you haven't got the proper, you haven't went through the proper sequence. You've got to have both of those in place at the same time,
Yeah.
insurance and road license fee. You can't get one without the other. They'll always try to find out, do you know that, in this test? So when you see the word valid insurance come and you see tax the vehicle in one of the proper answers, you're going to be right. Or if you see the question has got tax the vehicle in it, and then one of the possible answers is insurance cover, you're going to be right.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other, you see. They go
Mm-hmm.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how you remember that. Look for that giveaway. That's a giveaway question because if you see valid insurance in the question, you look down and you'll say you need tax before you can get valid insurance. You're gonna be right.
Yeah.
All right, my man. Oh, the wee picture in the movie. Let me see what we got here. What is that? What's a yellow box?
I don't recall.
It's a box junction, isn't it?
Oh,
So what's it saying? When may you wait in the area marked with a cycle? Yeah, it's a confusing worded one. So I'm going to make it big again, okay? So the correct answer is, of course, when the traffic lights change to amber and you've actually went over the line, and the first line, if you like. So you have no option but to stop there. You know, it's not for you. It's for bicycles, but it's basically saying, because you went over the white line and you've decided to stop, it's just, amber means you should stop if it's safe to do so. There's enough room for you to stop because there's an extra bit of space that's meant for bikes.
yeah.
And there is no bikes in this occasion. So you see this here,
Hmm.
this area here is for bikes. But what's happened is the traffic light here has been green and then amber and red, you see. So what's happened is you've been in a situation where if you moved when the light was green, or you've been coming along, the light was green, and you've just come over the white line and it's went amber, but you're traveling slow enough to stop before this white line.
Yeah.
And that's why they've said you've come over this white line here, which is the normal place for a car to stop, if you like. And this area is for bicycles, not for you. But guess what? The the light had changed and there's no bicycles there, so guess what? You can actually then stop.
Yeah.
It's not an easy question, that one. I had to look at it a couple of times myself. The diagram was quite strange. I'm moving it back a bit.
Yeah.
And these guys over here, I don't know what's going on with them. Let's just have a look to see. And we know these guys, and these guys have done something similar. But they're just basically telling you that once the light changes, look, see this
Yeah.
guy?
Mhm.
This guy, he stopped in the area
Yeah.
because the lights changed. He was over the line, but he had still enough time to stop here because he was traveling slow enough. And a lot of the time, amber does mean stop, of course, but it only means stop if it's safe to do so.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times, it might not be safe to do so because you're traveling too fast. But if you imagine you're driving along a road and you're only doing like 5 miles an hour walking pace, well, I mean, life becomes easier. You can stop a lot quicker.
Hmm.
You could within less distance because you're traveling so slow. So
Yeah.
amber does mean stop, right? But it comes with that little word, if it's safe to do so in the highway code, because that means you can't do an emergency stop, you see. Sometimes,
Hmm.
and causing a car to come up behind you and crash into you because you've decided to do an emergency stop to stop on an amber light. If you're too close to it, you've got to keep going. And that's it. It's a bit of an experience situation, that one, where you'll learn by more practice on when you should stop, and when you should go. But there you go. That wasn't a bad test, actually.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at how we can improve it then, okay? And let's look at some of the weakest areas.